Hi, everyone. My name is Rafi Spiewak. I work for Proteontecs, and today I'm going to be speaking about writing content for B2B, mostly for more of a boring audience, more specifically. If you are in that industry or you're looking to get into that kind of field for B2B, it's quite different than writing for B2C. It doesn't mean you can't do it, but for B2B, there's a lot of opportunity, whether you're looking for or whether you're currently in a salaried role or freelance. I've done both. Again, my name is Rafi. We're here at the Outrank Virtual Summit. So thank you for joining me. And my experience, a little bit about who I am. I am American born. I currently live outside of the US, but the American tone and the American English I found is very in demand throughout high tech, no matter where you are. Even outside of that, when it comes to B2C, if you're in if you're selling physical goods or selling digital goods, the American voice and the American flow is what a lot of people are looking for. Currently, as I said, I work for a company in the semiconductor industry called Proteontex. I'll go into a bit more about that in a moment. My history, I was a freelancer for a while. I worked with a lot of high tech, med tech, fintech companies like Plus 500 you may be familiar with, Sony Semiconductor, and some other and just others across the fields. And there's a lot of similarities, honestly, between the industries, and there's a lot of differences as well. So let me jump right into my presentation about Proteontex, who we are and what we do. I think will be very relevant to everything else that we're speaking about today. So let me just pull this up to do a share screen. All right, let's hop into presentation mode. Cool. So Proteontex is this is not the official description, but we create visibility into what's going on inside of computer chips. Semiconductors is another way of saying computer chips, more specifically, the pieces of silicon technology inside the packaging that we commonly know as a chip. And so what we do is we speak with different people across industries who explain why it's important to have visibility into what's going on inside of your chips, into dies, if you're familiar with the terminology and the differences, and really to move the industry forward from where it is today. So we're a well-funded startup. We have offices around the globe. We're present in the most advanced technologies and the smallest semiconductors. So when you think of the data needed to move data centers, mobile communications, automotive industry, you have pretty much a fixed space, and you want to create more and more data and communication within those little areas. And so a big difficulty with that is that the people who are designing chips, who are producing chips, who are reselling them, and then who are actually using them in the field, one, don't really speak much with one another. They're siloed. And in addition, they don't really have the means to speak with each other. So the way that the people are designing them doesn't necessarily matter to the people who are testing them, for example. And the way that's being tested, they don't really share information, and they don't really have a way of speaking with the people who are using it in the field. So if people in the field want to know what can be expected of each individual chip, the testers are like, I don't know, we just made sure it hit this minimum threshold. So what happens there is we spend a lot of time debugging. It has an impact on profit and revenue because there's a lot of warranty claims. A lot of times when we research in the field, right, what's going on, if you bring your phone into the shop, and let's say if you have an iPhone, you go to an Apple store and you see my phone's not working, they'll do research, what happened? I don't know, we just changed a part for you. If you're talking about a cell phone, that might be fine. If you're talking about the thousands of chips that go into a modern vehicle, yeah, it's thousands. Or if you think of the millions of chips being used in a data center, then it has a big impact on the cost of maintenance and also on reliability. And that's really at the core of what's going on today is reliability. You don't want your car suddenly failing on you. You don't want a data center to drop. We've all seen headlines from Google speaking about how, oh my God, Google Suite was down for 20 seconds or 3 minutes and the whole world freaked out. For a lot of people, it doesn't make the biggest difference. It's more of an inconvenience, but there are critical applications that rely on it. If we're speaking about autonomous vehicles in the future, and suddenly there's a failure on the road, that's a really big deal. If the sensor that's designated to detect what lane you're supposed to be in, where you exit, pedestrians, other bikes, other vehicles, we can quickly get to places where we are putting our lives on the line in technology. It's up to us to make sure technology does not fail. There are different ways that's being done today, but it's really not the most efficient, and it doesn't help with scaling in the future for what we expect to see in the next 10 to 20 years. So what we do is we have a machine learning platform, and it understands everything that's going on and also speaks to everyone at the same time. So if you're talking about designers, chip production, system production, right? So we create the chips and then we're sitting here on our computers. Someone is actually manufacturing the computer, the chips, putting it into computers, and then they're putting it out to the field. A lot of times the people who are designing want to know what's going on in the field. People who are in the field want to speak to the system producers and know how they did something. And so there's a lot of benefit to speaking with one another and understanding how things are done for the sake of efficiency, but also for the sake of pinpointing where something went wrong and how to stop it from happening in the future. So we have a common data language. We take information directly off the chip and we identify how it's wearing out and what's going on. I don't think I need to go much deeper than that. I think what's unique about us, and it does play into the marketing feature, is that we put monitoring IPs that we call agents, things that go into the chip at critical points to understand exactly what is going on in real time. We send that data to the cloud. It's analyzed through a machine learning platform, and then it's sent back. And so we'll tell you what's going on. So instead of your car suddenly breaking down or your phone stopping to work, we'll tell you, hey, you have 3 weeks before this thing wears out, go get it replaced. Again, today is more of an inconvenience when we think of our day-to-day lives, but as we increase our reliance on these devices, it does become more and more critical. And so our key segments, our industries that we focus on are data centers, communications, automotive, and AI. We're silicon proven, which means that it's already in the field, it's already being placed in chips, all the way down to 5 nanometers. I think the human hair is 100 nanometers, so 5 nanometers is absolutely tiny. If you want to know more about that, you can just look up 5 nanometer computer chips, semiconductors, and there's a lot of information out there. So how do we take an industry like this, which prides itself on being conservative, and grab their attention? It's quite tricky, and it's actually quite challenging to get all the information across that you want, still keep a reader's attention, not make any mistakes, and have them contact you. So I'm going to stop sharing here for a moment. And so getting that to come back to you, you're getting a customer to see what's going on and come back to you, is incredibly challenging. There are a few key things you can do. One is know what your messaging is. So think of 3 to 4 points that you just repeat and repeat and repeat in every piece you come across. This is not exactly the B2C take. This is really a trick for B2B. You go to the whoever you're working with, the marketing director, the VP of marketing, a content writer, marketing manager, and you say, what are the key points that I need to hit every single time? And as the writer or as the person who's creating content, it gets boring. It gets really, it can get very mundane. It's important that whatever you're writing about, you have personal interest in in loving that topic. That interest might be making some money, nothing wrong with that, or it might be a genuine curiosity about the industry. But regardless, you have to feel motivated about working with that company. If you feel that it's boring or you feel that you just don't want to do it, it's going to come across in your writing. I find, right, when I was a freelancer, on the one hand, I want to say that, you know, I niched down and I only worked with companies that I totally loved and reflected me. But sometimes you need, one, if you're good at what you do, companies come to you. And two, you need to pay the bills. And so I found a trick for really loving anything you're working on is knowledge. The more you know about something, right? It can be paint, it can be anything. It could be different types of wood. The more you know about a topic and the more you see how deep you can go, the more you see people really in their zone appreciating that topic, that's where you need to go. Because one, people who appreciate it know what to say. And two, they'll give you critical information that can give you an appreciation or even a love for that topic. It's worked for me multiple times. When it comes to semiconductors and computer chips, I have no formal training in that background. I don't even have formal training in marketing. That's something I picked up over time, but I'm genuinely curious about how electronics work. And so that really began my curiosity and my ability to understand what we're talking about. So that's really the basics on, okay, for B2B writing, I need 3 to 4 key points that I hammer in all the time. We talk about visibility into electronics, reliability, machine learning, and there's a handful of other ones that we throw into the mix, but those are our key points because our clients or our potential clients are not reading everything in chronological order. So we know that as marketing managers, sometimes as writers, we forget that a little bit, that, well, I created this piece and this piece and this piece. And even though you called it part 1 of 3, part 2 of 3, part 3 of 3, it does not mean that they are reading it in order. For those of you who like movies and trilogies, you may have watched the second one to begin with, and then you went back to the first because you actually enjoyed it so much. So that's the first thing, is to remember that these pieces that we talk about all the time, you need to summarize them in each. If you're breaking up your content, you need to always be summarizing those. Another really important thing to do is online resources, right? We're here at the Outranking Summit. I would hope by now all of you have tried Outranking. If you haven't, please go ahead, log in. It's free to try out. I don't get any kickback for it. You don't have to drop my name. I'm not going to drop a link about how you can get 10% off. Although if you want to write me a check for 10%, go for it. I will not complain. But ultimately, this is a great resource because SEO is different for B2B and B2C. When you're a B2C company or when you're talking directly to customers, your SEO is everything. Your ability to be found, the buzzwords you use, you know, the top 3 reasons you should buy this right now, the top 8 sentences that everyone says and you sound like an idiot, right? So we all want to click on those things. I don't mind clickbait titles as long as the content is good, right? I don't think any of us do. If someone says the common mistake all marketers make, and then you open it up and you actually got value out of that piece, yeah, clickbait, go ahead. If you're going to stuff it full of junk, you don't have to. And I find personally, I find it harder to write like that, to write things that are created for the sake of clickbait than offering value. And it doesn't have to be one or the other. Whenever we see clickbait, we click on it because there's something about it that interests us. It's easier for you as a writer, whether you're B2B or B2C, to really understand what it is your reader wants and do the research on your part. Because once you have the research, it's going to be a lot easier to write. You're going to feel better about presenting it, and you're not going to have all the questions that come when you submit your work and they say, what are you talking about? And then you have to defend yourself. Always be ready to defend your writing. That's important. It'll make you a better writer from the start. So what's really important with Outranking, or what I appreciate from Outranking, is that one, they'll get you started, right? So you can say, I want to talk about this topic. and you could put in some basic, and I tested it. I put in some really basic general information to see where it would take me. And it was pretty good. It gave me a lot of good feedback. I also took content that I already have live. I personally optimized for SEO and dropped it in, and it gave me some suggestions. For B2C, a lot of the suggestions I would take just for the sake of ranking. For B2B, it really is pick and choose as you see fit. For us, for Proteontex, we don't really have any competitors in the field. There are a couple of people who say they do what we do, but when we drill down, they lack the technology behind it. That makes it very difficult for us when we're trying to understand who are we targeting and how do we target them. So if I say I want to target OEMs, right? I want to target Ford, General Motors, Volkswagen Group, whoever. That's great that you can target a whole group. You need to know who's the person that's reading it and what are their interests. Sometimes you can create very personalized content for them, and sometimes you can't. It really depends on the company you're with and your resources. And so using outranking is really great for getting that general understanding if you're there. And even if you want to drill down, get more specific, push more, and really understand what kind of SEO matters most to you. It's going to make a really big difference. Now, when we talk about taking that and moving it over to your website, any SEO that you do, one, it's always good if you can get feedback from other people. If you're a entry to mid-level, go to the senior level and ask them, are these words relevant? Just because they have high search volume and low competition doesn't make them relevant. Make a list, 10 to 15 words, let's say, depending on the industry, but 10 to 15 is a nice solid list if you're really thinking of how do you maximize SEO on your blogs, right? You're not going to be putting 15 keywords in there for B2B. You're probably going to have 3 to 4. Take that list to senior ranking people in your company and ask them, are these relevant? Do these terms come up in your meetings? And you can always ask if you can join a meeting, because it really gives you a feel for the clients, for what's going on in the industry. Another is to possibly hire someone third party, a freelancer, a company that focuses on SEO, and get their feedback. You don't have to have them do the full search for you, or you might want to. What might be even better is if you can have them work with you on the keywords you found to say, this is what I came up with. Are these relevant? Again, outranking I found to be a very powerful tool for that. It really cut through a lot of the noise in SEO searches, and it just cut through my impatience. I'm more of a writer, and I don't want to spend more time than I have to doing SEO research. And as a writer who enjoys writing in marketing, I found that to be amazing. The most important thing, whether you are, and again, whether you're a freelancer or whether you're starting at a company, is to get a feeling, the general air, the general feeling of people. That is more difficult nowadays online. It really is. Have chit-chatty conversations about their cats, all right? Ask them about art you see in the background. Where do they get it from? What do they do this weekend? What's the weather like? It's these kind of conversations that build our social connection. It's things that we talk about our family or with our friends with. And it's also important to talk to our clients about that stuff. One, it'll get them to like you more, which never hurts. Two, it'll allow you to get a feel for that vibe, those things that as writers, as marketers, only we can feel, that human connection to understand industries. Read a lot of headlines, take time every day just to read news in your industry and general news. Get a daily marketing email that gives you updates on what's going on. I work in computer chips. Whatever Pepsi is doing for their marketing, does it make a difference? Not really, but it's interesting. It's interesting to know that companies like Dove spearhead more human connection, that Victoria's Secret has moved away from their traditional models to more realistic models for their items. That's a shift that goes on across industries. Those things are felt. The B2C market creates the mindset for all of us, because as much as all of us are professionals and we're working, we're also consumers. We consume products, right? We're purchasers, or we also consume information. And that general zeitgeist, right? The general mindset that comes throughout societies and around the globe, it moves together, and it moves kind of slowly. So you don't have to always, depending on where you are, you don't have to be the first one to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to have the hottest marketing campaign, but you do need to see what's going on in your industry. What kind of wording are they using? Once you have all of that, right, once you really understand what it is that's going on in your company, in your industry, and in marketing as a whole, right? What are people seeing commercials and billboards that you can then bring back and adapt to your work? I think I've said it a few times now, it's very conservative. People want very dry, very boring content. I don't want to write very dry, very boring content. I don't want to create commercials or videos that are dry and boring. I want to see people enjoy my work. So I'm going to push the limit. I'm going to write in a personal tone. I'm going to write for a company that always speaks in third person, right? Proteontecs is proud to present. I'm going to say, we are proud to present. See where the flexibility is there, because what you'll find is that readability is higher. People are going to read it more. They're going to share it more on social. And your work, besides for just feeling better about it, is going to be shared a lot easier. So to recap, one, find a reason to like what you're doing. You don't have to fall in love. I'm not saying that, with passion, you'll never work a day in your life, because it's challenging. It's challenging to guess why someone's going to click or not. It could be that it's super targeted to them, but something came up, they got a phone call and they had to run and take care of something, or it could be that it didn't interest them. It's very hard to separate those. A/B testing always helps for landing pages, for social media content. Of course, you can't create a different kind of what comes up for different people, but you can create different styles of content and see how people react. So getting a feel for understanding what's going on in the market is super important. The knowledge is first and foremost, and you get that by reading everything that's relevant exactly to what you're doing and what's in the periphery, what surrounds it, what other industries are constantly being woven, what other companies are constantly coming up when talking about your product. Another is speak with superiors about what are they seeing on calls, what is being asked of them, what are the hard questions being pushed, because your content should always be addressing market questions. Okay, I don't want to go with outranking because I don't want another piece of software. Okay, well, outranking actually is more than just a piece of software. It will allow you to reduce the pieces of software you need. And so these kind of counter arguments you need to bring over in a very soft, calm, and inviting manner. And the last point, and I can't stress this enough, Outranking is an awesome product. Check it out. It's free. If you don't like it, don't use it after. Thank you so much. Please feel free to send me any questions, to reach out. Proteontecs, again, best of luck. You're going to rock it.